That's right to a certain extent. But I think it really depends on whether there's a gridlock in the Congress. So it will significantly impact whether both parties can pass through their proposed legislation. So, the Democrats are definitely going to spend more, regardless, but they also are proposing higher taxes on the corporate side and also on the high net worth side. And also they're proposing higher minimum wages. They're proposing a greener economy, which itself is good, but that would be more negative for energy stocks. And also, they are probably going to put more pressure on drug companies to limit their pricing power. So that should be more negative on pharmaceutical stocks. So looking at the Republicans, they will be spending, but probably less than the Democrats, and they should be a bit more business friendly with regards to the taxes front and also the regulation side. So I think on margin, the Republican government could be, more positive for the stock market. But we think the most likely scenario now should be a Biden presidency with a divided Congress, which should, still have lots of spending. But in terms of the more negative side of the regulation and the legislation, should be harder to pass through the Congress that way.
Janet, in some ways it feels we've moved on from a trade war to a technology war. If Joe Biden is elected, I wonder how much of this continues on the technology side, because there's been a huge focus around the way Trump is tackling TikTok and WeChat, but it's also playing well with many American voters. There was a poll last week suggesting about 40% of Americans supported banning TikTok if it's not sold to a US buyer. Do you think Joe Biden would pick up on some of these maneuvers by President Trump, given the popularity with American voters?
Yeah, I think the tougher stance on China will be the same, regardless who is in the White House. But we think that Joe Biden would take a less aggressive approach than President Trump. He's a bit less erratic than Trump in terms of his dealing with China and the international stage, we think. And I think that the trade tension between US and China should be more moderated under a Biden presidency. And I think he would still be tough on China, but probably in ways that are less prohibitive in terms of activity in the corporate and the trading side. So Trump likes to ban things and he likes to increase tariff. But we think that Joe Biden's approach would probably to, say, impose a carbon tax on China because he's proposing a green economy, and he'll probably work with his international allies to impose pressure on China instead of having trade tensions with China and the rest of the world like Trump is doing.
Janet, let's switch over to the Fed, because it does strike me that whoever takes the White House will have to probably contend with some Fed exit policies at some point. It might be towards the end of the term, given the economic damage we're witnessing. But we've seen how detrimental, how uncertain it can be for markets, for investors and business people as the Fed tries to extract itself from extraordinary monetary stimulus. What happens from here? If Joe Biden is in the White House or it's President Trump, how hard will it be for the Fed to try and remove some of the stimulus down the track and perhaps even raise interest rates?
I think this is not in the foreseeable future, basically, because we already know that from the inflation targeting framework, the interest rates are not going to change unless the economy is running hot. And it may well be the case further down the road, but we doubt that is going to happen with some of the structural pressures on the economy and the economic scarring from this pandemic. So it will take quite a few years for the economy to get back on that sort of high growth trend that we see pre-COVID. And the latest Fed announcement, they actually put a year on it. They say the interest rates probably remain at near zero, until at least end of 2023. So we're looking at a situation where interest rates are actually not going to be changed for a long time. And I think that is actually providing lots of certainty for businesses. I think it is still much further down the road until we need to be concerned about the unwinding of all these stimulus and accommodative policies.